So Mark and I were talking a while ago about a blog post that Paul Graham put out, the title of which was "Don't Talk to Corp Dev." And I think it's a really good blog post to read. There's some good advice in there. There's also some maybe not great advice, and I wanted to give you a more sort of practical approach to figuring out how you think about corporate development from the sell side, and then how you would engage with somebody like me. So this is a quote from the blog post, and he's talking about sort of, if you're less than a year old, why would you talk to corporate development? I 100% agree with that. If you've only been at it for a year, chances are you don't have anything particularly valuable. Any inbound you get from corp dev is just fishing, and you should probably tell those people to go away. I'm 100% on board with that. But then he goes into a little bit more detail, and this is where I have a little bit of an issue. His basic advice, I think, comes from a good place, which is it's hard to run a business. It's hard to build a startup. If you start thinking about selling, if it gets in there, it distracts you. It disheartens you. And so you shouldn't do it. Just don't do it at all. And he says, don't talk to corp dev unless you're ready to sell your business right now. And he also says, at a price that you like. But of course, if you're ready to sell your business right now, you're probably not in a place to dictate terms. And as you know, businesses are bought, not sold, or at least they should be. And if you're in a position where you want to sell right now and you don't have any contacts, you're selling your business. And you don't want to be in that position. You want to have the relationships that you need in order to position yourself so that someone like me can sell my business to you. That's the position that you want to be in, right? So in order for you to get ready to talk to corporate development, I guess I have one little best practice. I know a couple of small businesses that do this. I know it's a little bit like eat your vegetables or giving you advice that not very many people follow. But you should be thinking about raising your next round or whatever round you're raising. And when you do that, you should be thinking about who you're going to go and get money from, how you're going to pitch them, what kind of value you want. And you should be looking at comps, right? So that you can say, these people are raising at this round. So you're selling your business at that point, but you're only selling maybe 20% of it. And my suggestion to you is that you add a little line to that work. Well, what if I sold 100%? Would I sell it at a discount to my B round? Or am I so confident in my business that I am overvaluing my business relative to what a B round investor is going to give me? I want a control premium. And you should have that meeting with the founders and decision makers in your business. There should be no alcohol involved. It should be serious. And you should write that number down. And then as you go forward, you should be building out your comps. So when somebody in your comp world gets bought, that gives you information. So my advice to you is do some homework up front, be adult about it, and compartmentalize. Have one meeting, and that's the only meeting that you need to have. And so when someone like me comes talking or comes calling, you have a basis from which to talk to them. So now I've given you sort of like some homework. You could do it if you want. The next thing I think you need to know is what somebody like me does every day, so that you know when I'm calling you where I am in my process. So I would say that corp dev people spend most of their time building market maps. So you've all seen like Lumascape or whatever. That's what corp dev people do. They find companies, they put them on a slide, they try to learn a little bit about them, and then they educate business groups internally. I build a hell of a lot of market maps. The second thing that I do is I try to build business cases once I have a better understanding of that market that I'm in. I think Zendesk should be in this market, or I think Zendesk should buy this company. I'm pitching back into the business. And then the third thing I do is I do target screens. So once I have an approved business case from my CFO, who's given me maybe some envelope for spending money, CapEx-wise, and then some envelope for spending money OpEx-wise, because when you buy a business, not only do you give cash or stock, but then you have to operate the business. So when I'm coming to you under a target screen or as a target screen, I have an approved project. And the reason I make the distinction between just building a market map and doing a target screen is that you should be able to tell where I am in that process, right? And then the last thing we do is we respond to inbounds all the time. Zendesk gets probably 4 a week, right? And some of those companies are pretty good. But when somebody sends me an inbound, I am not all that interested in it. I mean, I definitely discount it, especially if it's cold and I've never heard of those folks. So those people do want to sell their business to me, but I've never heard from them. They made the first mistake, which is they didn't want to talk to corporate dev until they needed to. Okay, so now you know how to get ready. You know what we do. Let's do some role play. Hey, I'm really interested in your space, and you guys are doing some great things. What that probably means is I just found you on a Google search, and I don't know anything about your business. This is one that I like quite a lot, is we're doing a build by partner analysis. Now, that might be true, but it's also designed to make you afraid, right? Because what I'm saying is that I might be competing with you. I might buy one of your competitors, I might build a competitive tool, but one way or the other, I'm going to be in your market, right? Corp devs, I'm helping you. This one, we'll talk about it a little bit more length. But our product team would love to compare notes. Now, that might be true, and you might be very interested in what Zendesk is doing in your market so that you can get competitive intelligence. But know that that same product group is also very interested in what you've done and the decisions that you've made. And then this one is one of my favorites because I've said it before, and I didn't mean it, but the company actually knew what it actually means. So when somebody says, we love you guys, when you guys get to a decision point, I want you to reach out to us, right? It's the reverse of don't call us, we'll call you. And what that means is we are not interested in your business at all. I actually said that to a company and I meant it, and they sold their business to somebody else and never reached out to us. And I called him like, why didn't you reach out to us? He's like, oh, you told me very clearly that you weren't interested. So these are the kinds of things that corp dev people will say to you at the beginning of the conversation. So now that you know a little bit about that, the approach, let's talk about how you would engage with them, right? So this is my advice to you. If you're over a year, you think one day you might sell your business, and chances are that's probably your most likely positive outcome is that you'll sell your business to somebody else. And I reach out to you, you should take that first meeting. You shouldn't blow me off. Playing hard to get isn't going to do you any good. If you want to be on my market map, telling me to go pound sand means I'm probably not going to put you on my market map because I'm mad. Or if I do, there's going to be a little check mark like these guys are arrogant. So if you want to be on the market map, you should take the first meeting. But what you do in that first meeting is pretty important, right? Am I building my market map? Am I just fishing, right? The way you figure that out is you ask me very clearly, why are you here? What do you want? Where are you in your process? What do you know about my market? What do you know about me? What do you know about my business? And why are you interested? If I have great answers to all those questions, that probably means I'm serious and I've done my homework. If my answer is, I don't know, man, you guys are the experts. You know, what is a bot? You know, that means that I'm just fishing. I'm just doing my homework. And what you should do then is you should say, you know, pretend like you're really excited to hear from me. You should give me your 5-slide presentation, and then you should tell me to go away. Now this is my, I guess, most valuable advice, because what happens next is where you're in the danger zone. So I've come to you as corporate development. I've clearly demonstrated to you that I'm just fishing or building a market map and I'm not serious about your business. And I suggest as a next step that you give a demo to my product team, right? Danger, right? One of my biggest pet peeves, I've had CEOs tell me all the time, hey, if corp dev reaches out to me, I'm not going to respond, like those guys. But if product reaches out to me, that's where I want to be, and I'm going to go talk to them. And then get the product guys in a room together, and they love each other, and they share all their information. And at that meeting, your product team is giving away all of your trade secrets, right? Like, what is it that's valuable about your business? It's all the decisions that you've made, you know, how you've architected your product, all that kind of stuff. Even if you have a free trial on your website. You're like, oh, well, I should go and give a demo because they could just go and get it on their own. But product teams are lazy. Let's say Google is like going to build something and it's going to compete with you. They'll send corp dev out to do a target screen, right? And then they'll just bring all these people in and they'll just get easy competitive intelligence. So I'm not saying don't meet with the product team, especially if you're interested, especially if they have things they want to share with you. But understand that the real value, the secrets, the trade secrets that you're trying to protect are in your product, Maybe they're a little bit in your go-to-market, but probably not. It's in the product itself. So one opinion, I guess it's controversial, I'll share. As a corp dev guy, people are always nervous about us and they don't want to give us the information. They'll be happy to tell you every product decision they ever made, but if I ask you, how's it going? You won't tell me anything because you don't want me to know. You think that how much revenue you're making or how many customers you have, that's the secret that you want to hold on to. If that's the way you roll, that's fine. You know, if you're a buffer, right, and everybody knows, that's also fine. But consider if I'm just building that market map, you want me to put a note on that market map. Hey, these guys have found product market fit, or they're on their way, or they're really growing. I think it's in your interest to give me a little bit of commercial information just so I can know where you are, right? You can decide to do that or not, but that's it's up to you. So let's say I come to you now, and I am serious. I've proven to you that I know what I'm talking about. I know about your business. I want to engage with you. I'm telling you that I'm in a process to acquire a business like yours, or maybe I want to acquire your business specifically. The first piece of sound advice I'll offer here is if you are not interested in me acquiring your business, don't engage with me just to do a price check. I think this happens a lot. Like, oh, pick on Computer Associates. Computer Associates comes to me and they want to buy my business, and you've had that meeting and you're like, never in a million years over my dead body, I'll shutter this thing before I'll sell to Computer Associates. But I'm going to engage with Computer Associates because I'll do a price check and I'll be able to use that, whatever that price is, when I raise my B round or whatever, right? That is a waste of time because you're not going to get a real number from Computer Associates unless you tell them everything that they need to know in order to give you a real number, right? So if you think you're going to play this game, you're just going to waste a bunch of your time. You probably will demoralize yourself because you spent a bunch of time talking to corporate development, and you'll be no better off. All right, so let's say you're now interested in getting acquired. We've demonstrated to you that we are interested in acquiring you. We're moving forward. We're going to make you an offer, right? So how do you prepare for that? So Corp Dev Jiu-Jitsu version 2. The first one is my absolute favorite because it happened to me. I've been authorized to offer you a max range of $50 million for your business. Like, the translation really is, I think you're an idiot. But look how genius that is, right? Because you see that number, and that's a number that you might be able to get to, right? In any negotiation, whoever goes first is at a disadvantage. And it looks like they're going first, but they're not, right? All he's saying is, I am not going to pay you $50 million for your business, right? And you're like, okay, I want to move forward. And so you've given him a signal about your willingness, and he's given you nothing. So very, very tried and true tactic. I've never personally done it, but it's been done to me. The next stage is a range. Look, based on what I know, I don't know everything I need to know, but you need some price signal to move forward, between this and that. Not the worst thing in the world, but again, it's not a number. It's just a range. Now, if you feel like, oh my God, I wanted to sell my business for something less than X, and he gave me a range X and Y, that's good information for me. But it isn't an offer, so be careful. This one is a good one. I've heard it used on other folks. You guys are our first choice. I think I can get the business sponsor to go to 50 million. And what this means is that this corp dev guy is utterly off the reservation. He has no authority whatsoever, and you're negotiating with no one. I'll be very clear, right? This one, you guys have built an amazing team, and we want to bring your DNA inside Google. What that means is I have a carte blanche, basically, to go and acquire machine learning engineers between $1 and $1.5 million per engineer. That's all that means, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that they're interested in your business. This next one is like, hey, this is real. Here's an offer. I want to pay you $22 million. Just sign this like simple term sheet, and then we'll get started. We'll start that process together. That's the most dangerous one if this person is in fact behaving badly, right? Because if you sign a simple term sheet, one of the elements in that term sheet is exclusivity, right? So you sign that thing, and you start this process, and then you lost all your leverage. And they've got you for 6 weeks, or even if they give you like a term sheet that's like 2 weeks exclusivity, then you get to the end of that 2 weeks, and they've messed with you a little bit more, and then you have to sign an extension. Like once you sign a term sheet, like the risk goes up and up and up. All right? So let's talk about the offer itself. I'll tell you how Zendesk does it. Like, this is our standard practice, and we change it to meet the needs of the target. But this is how we like to roll. So the first thing we want to do is we want to offer you a high-level business plan. This is what we want to do with your team and your business inside of Zendesk. We give you a high-level organization plan. This is who your boss will be. These are all the important people. This is what your titles will be. This is how we are going to integrate you into our business. We tell you how we're going to approach valuation. Do we consider it a tech and team buy? Do we consider it a team buy? Are we looking at a revenue multiple? Are we thinking about it in terms of time to market and valuing that time to market? You'll know how we are going to give you that number. And you will know who your executive sponsor is. You probably will have met this person by this point. And so that's our attempt to convince you that we are genuinely serious. And then we ask you, before we give you a real offer, because that's what you want in this stage of the process, to do some homework. We give you a 5-page diligence checklist that gives you things like, if it's commercial buy, like give me some basic commercial information. How many employees do you have? Where are they located? What are your overall development practices? Do you have good best practices for development? Maybe we want to meet an engineer or two. Maybe we want to meet the whole team. But we will ask you to give us information before we give you an offer. And then we will ask you to do all that homework. It's about 48 hours with very little sleep to do it. So you start on a Friday, you've got all your shit together. By Monday, you should be done. Right? We're trying to make this as efficient as possible for you. And then we ask you to come and present that information to our executive team or the executive sponsor, the folks who are going to be deeply involved in working with you. Now, maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you're like, that's way too much information for me to give you without a number. Then we can talk about price, and we negotiate, well, what information are you going to give me so I can give you a price? The more information you give me, the more real that offer comes. We believe in term sheets. We believe in like 10-page, 7 to 10-page term sheets, so that when you sign that thing, you know all of the things that are likely to be negotiated in a definitive purchase agreement are outlined for you. So you're not just starting the process. Our goal is that once you sign that term sheet, there's a very high likelihood that we're going to do a deal. And the reason we do that is that once you sign that term sheet, like as you see, like the risk to you as a business goes up and up and up and up. By the time you get to signing a term sheet, you're at maximum risk because you're going to sign that thing and we're going to take over your life for probably 3 weeks. It's probably going to take 6 weeks to get the whole deal done. But you're going to have to hire a lawyer. You should hire your own, by the way. Don't rely on your VC's lawyer. And we're going to do damage to your business such that if we were to walk away, it would be bad for you. And so it comes from a place of love. We want to make sure that once you sign that thing, you're really there. But it all depends on how much paranoia you have about sharing information with us. So that is that. Oh, so here are the things that go into a term sheet real quick. So price is split out. This is pretty simple, but purchase consideration, which is money, stock, and cash that goes to the cap table, the people who own the business, and then retention consideration, and that's money that goes to the key employees within the business that we want to retain. Sometimes that retention follows the percent ownership of those people, and sometimes it doesn't. It's up to us. Like we will reorder how much money we put in the retention pool based on who we think is key. That's important. Those two things come together for price. The next one is key employees. In order for us to sign an actual agreement, if there are 5 key employees, those people have to sign an agreement with us that says that they'll remain employed. The exclusivity period, where you can't shop the deal or talk to other people, is 6 weeks. That's real, right? You can't shop that deal. And then, like the number one thing, I guess, the number one term there is sort of the holdback definition, which means we're going to give the money to the cap table, but we're going to hold back some amount in case things go wrong. You stole all your code, things like that. And that's real money that we hold on to in escrow, and that market's around 20%. So there are other terms in the term sheet, but we want to give you all those things up front so that you can make an informed decision. The last thing I'd say is that once you get to this end point, your management, you have your VCs who are there, and your interests are usually aligned, but they are not the same. So understand that at this point, you are separating at some point from your management team. you have a fiduciary obligation to do right by the business, but you also have to think about your team. So one little controversial opinion I have is that we often ask for the cap table, like in detail. I want to know exactly who owns what and under what circumstances, so that I can make sure that I give an offer that maximizes money to you and the management team. Sometimes people don't want to do that because they think it gives them more leverage if I don't know who owns the business, but it actually harms the management team. Generally, we usually get it. And if we don't, then we make an offer, things go back and forth, and then we absolutely have to know who owns the business before we sign a term sheet. And we'll give you a thing called a flow of funds, which tells you who gets what. And so you'll, as a manager, know how much you're making, and you'll have a general understanding of how much your rank and file are going to make. So that is how to work with corporate development. Yes?
Thank you. So do you maintain the market maps internally, or do you publish it for potential?
They're internal.
Okay. So if a startup has been there for more than a year, and then they know that there are some gaps in your market map, again, based on the discussions that they may have with some employees, what is the best way to approach a corporate development?
I think the best way to approach corporate development is to reach out to corporate development. If we haven't reached out to you, you reach out to us. I would say that certainly, if it's like it's time to sell and I really want to sell, a lot of people hire a bank and they do that for you, right? But I personally, I've had people reach out to me directly, like, hey, this is, we're at a stage where we're comparing B round, or I just want to sell my business, and reaching out directly to corporate development, we will always call you back. It's our job. And we want to do deals, so we will call you back, reaching out directly. The other sort of extended answer to that is that you should have been thinking about this earlier. So you should have been reaching out to us earlier. If you know that you have a tech and there's like 7 buyers, you should be cultivating a relationship with those 7 buyers, so that when you're ready to sell, it isn't a cold email.
So I have one question that I've been meaning to ask you, which is why I invited you here.
Yes, Sunir, I can't wait for this.
No, it's very common that corp dev ends up not talking to the owners, but to like biz dev or marketing as a first place. And it's like weird for people who don't have experience in capital because they're employees and never thought about it. Mm-hmm. So what is, from your point of view, what's the best working with them? What's the best way they should respond? And from their point of view, what should they do when they have corp dev? What's the right thing for them?
I don't think I understand. So,
very often when you're working in biz dev or marketing, you end up getting approached by potential acquirers or investors, but they don't reach the actual owners or founders. They reach through some employee, and they
present themselves as corporate development.
Yeah, and it's odd, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know someone who did that, for instance, with me, right? And then I passed it on, right? But as an employee, it may feel awkward because you don't want to be acquired. But it's not ethical to not pass it on. So it's just an awkward situation. So tell me about the relationship between corp dev and biz dev people on the other side.
Yeah, typically if corp dev reaches out, there's a million ways, right? So understand if a business is reaching out to you, that is a potential acquirer, if it's like a product person or a partner person or whatever, know that the whole business is reaching out to you, right? And so if you're sharing information with the BD guy, that goes to corporate development. I run BD too, so right. Typically, like if I have a pre-existing relationship with somebody, I might reach out for a warm introduction to the founders if I don't know them, but typically corporate development reaches out to the founder. That's the typical way that it would work.
I got 2 questions. What's your view on bankers and the role they play in the process? And then what's your view on, for SaaS companies, deferred revenue and handling that as a liability, and how you negotiate that? That seems to come up a lot.
So first thing, when we get inbounds from bankers, we're happy to work with those folks. We do have some relationships with people who have built some expertise in SMB SaaS, and so we're happier to hear from them, like they know us a little bit. Typically, those reach outs are very transactional. I don't have long-standing relationships with sell-side bankers. We don't go to coffee all that much and talk about the market. They don't want to do that. They just want to, I've got a deal, here it is, are you interested? Here's the teaser. And basically they're just a sales arm. That's the way I basically view them. And then in terms of deferred revenue, it's just, there's a difference between GAAP and non-GAAP, and we care more about our non-GAAP position, and so deferred revenue is a weirdness that comes with GAAP accounting, and we don't worry too much about it. And all of our analysts understand, like if we bought a company that had $10 million in revenue and some of it was deferred and that's actually going to mess up the balance sheet, they're going to know that and they're going to see that. Once it becomes visible, like deferred revenue, it puts you in a situation where if it's a big deal, it's also a significant transaction, and all of the accounting is made available to folks who are building their models, so they're not too beat up about it. Our position, I guess.
2 questions. First question, one of the things you mentioned at the beginning of the presentation was, don't come to me when you're ready to sell. I'm automatically going to discount you. What is the right way to proactively engage corp dev to create that relationship? Say you have 7 potential buyers. Yeah. What's the right way to think about that 12 months, 18 months prior to selling, rather than showing up at the door and automatically getting a discount placed on you?
Yeah, I mean, Mark can opine here a little bit. I think he knows a lot more about the way to do this, but also understand that if you're thinking about companies that are going to acquire you, those companies hopefully also have an interest in a commercial relationship with you, right? And so you would approach them under the guise and also maybe for the explicit purpose of forming a commercial relationship with them. And so that's the way you do it. You get to know them as business partners before you get to know them as potential acquirers. That's the easiest way. I will honestly say that I don't think I've ever had somebody reach out to me and say, you guys are awesome, I might want to sell to you in 18 months, I just thought I'd get myself on your radar. That'd be pretty bold. I would remember you, but I haven't seen that happen.
And the other question is, you'd mentioned that there are instances where corp dev comes fishing, yeah, and they may not have done a lot of research. What's a nice way to do that kind of 5-slide teaser and then kind of respectfully step back? Context here is we've gone through that process and we've gotten the 2 product teams on board and been burned by that. Mm-hmm. So what's a nice way to kind of say, here's everything you get for now, come back when you guys are ready?
You just did it.
Okay.
Just have that, people everybody wants to be nice, There's some Canadians in the audience, right? Just say no. Like, hey, love you, respect you. When you guys are ready to be serious, we're here, but we're going to stay heads down. Do not feel that if you don't give a demo to some company that's just fishing, that you're going to get a black mark because I didn't give a full deep demo to the 3 product managers at Google that might buy you one day. Don't fall into that trap.
Maybe since I have the mic, I'll ask one question while I walk it over here. Can you just talk, if you talk about the deals that have closed at Zendesk, like, where did they originate? Did they originate with your team building a market map, or was it with like a product owner coming and saying, I have a need, or both?
Yeah, so Zendesk, for the record, we're a young publicly traded company. We've only done 2 deals. We've worked hard on others, but to specifically answer your question, both of those acquisitions came as the result of a business plan that we put together, where we worked very closely with the business, the product teams and the business teams, to say, I want to go buy a chat company. I need that. We need that as part of our business. Conan, I sold it into the business, and then they said, okay, Conan, go and get one. And so it was very project-driven. And so when I showed up talking to different chat companies, I was like, we know about this market, because we had a chat product, wasn't doing very well. We know who you are, what you're doing. We want to acquire you. Same thing with data visualization. We had a very specific project, and we were project-driven. That doesn't mean that we won't be opportunistic. We've had people come to us and educate us about something that we didn't fully understand, or maybe somebody was on a market map that, I have 15 market maps. Well, that's a lot, right? Zendesk is a very large platform, and I don't have perfect understanding of all of those markets. So if somebody comes to me from one area and it's opportunistic, we'll definitely take a look at it. And it doesn't mean that we wouldn't do an opportunistic deal, but we just haven't done one yet. Sir?
A great presentation. Thank you so much. I had one clarifying question. In the end, you made a passing remark. If you know the cap table, then I can structure a deal so that the team and the management team and the employees get the maximum returns.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit more about how exactly will you do it? Is it in retention bonuses, or is there anything else that you do?
Well, it's in retention, right? So when you think of the amount of money that we're going to have to spend outside of our regular, ordinary course of business, that comes in the form of purchase consideration that goes to the cap table and is distributed based on ownership and all of the funky rules that you may have in your cap table. And then there's a chunk of money or stock that we would set aside to retain those folks. And what we want to do, of course, it's our interest, right? We want to put as much of that total pool of cash and stock into retention because it gets shared with the people that we care about. I'm not giving away any secrets here. We don't really care all that much about the livelihood of Sequoia Capital. They're doing fine, right? We care about the people that we're trying to bring in inside of our business. So we would like to put as much money as we can into retention because it goes to the people that we care about. But of course, you have owners, and you have to negotiate those kinds of things.